Hi, my name is Hannah McElhaney, and I am a senior social work major at Commonwealth University on the Bloomsburg campus. And today I'll be talking about global sexism. I chose this topic because sexism is something that I'm very passionate about. It affects women worldwide, from their daily interactions to the policies that impact their rights as a person. And according to the World Bank Group, women make up approximately 49.7%, which is essentially half of the world's population. So I point this out to show that sexism affects a lot of people. And to put it into even more perspective, half the world's population is 4 billion people. Think about what 4 billion people looks like. Today, I will specifically be focusing on sexism within 3 countries: the United States, come on PowerPoint, there we go, Germany, and China. I chose these 3 countries because all 3 countries are great powers in the world, and they vary in geography as well as types of government. So what exactly is global sexism? We'll start by defining this in a couple of other terms that I feel are important to this topic. Global sexism is prejudice or discrimination based on sex or gender, especially against women or girls. To break this definition down, prejudice is the belief that a certain group is less than, and discrimination are the negative actions taken towards that group. When we're talking about sexism, this can look like unequal pay or unequal levels of safety. Additionally, to understand sexism, I feel it's important to acknowledge that gender is a social construct. And a social construct is an idea that has been created and accepted by people in a society. So gender, which is what sexism is based on, it's the foundation of it, is something that we as a society simply made up. So how does sexism present itself in these 3 countries? So first, let's look at some facts and figures. To start, we'll look at the Global Inequality Index from the UN's Human Development Reports. These reports uses reproductive health, empowerment, and the labor market to calculate these figures. And so to put these numbers in perspective, a lower GII means that there's more equality for women, and a higher GII means that there's less equality for women. So according to the Global Inequality Index, Germany has the most equality for women, followed by China, and then the United States. I was surprised to find that the United States was behind China in terms of women's equality. Especially since as Americans we have very negative views of China because it is led by the Communist Party. So it's very surprising to find that the United States has less equality. As you can also see on this slide, none of these 3 countries has an equal amount of women in their governments. Now remember that women make up half of the world's population. So this brings up the question, why is there not an equal amount of women and men in governments? Additionally, all countries have a high gender pay gap, but to me personally, any pay gap is simply too high. When looking at the day-to-day in all 3 countries, sexism can be found in the workplace in 2 major ways. Women are less likely to be in managerial roles. Additionally, women are more likely to experience sexual harassment in the workplace. In all 3 countries, attitudes towards women are also negative, especially towards working women. These attitudes include that women are fragile or that they are supposed to be in the home, and stereotypical gender roles seem to be enforced and connected to these types of attitudes. Now, what does sexism have to do with international relations? In Germany, sexism could impact their immigration laws. In 2018, a 15-year-old girl was killed by her ex-boyfriend, Kendall, who immigrated into Germany to kill her. People who are politically right saw this as a reason to toughen up immigration laws, which led to the movement Kendall is überall, which means that Kendall is everywhere. I personally find it interesting that a girl being murdered translated into immigration rather than protection of women. In China, sexism directly correlates to China's population. The sexist policy of the one-child rule, which was in place for 36 years up until 2015, has a drastic effect and long-lasting effect on China's population. So why is this important? Because population correlates with who is available to work in the labor market, which affects economy. So the long stretch of it is that the sexist policy of the one-child rule can ultimately affect the global economy. In the United States, the conversation has shifted since President Trump has begun his second term. He signed an executive order earlier this year to remove gender ideology from the federal government. As a superpower, the United States can influence how other countries handle certain issues. So after Executive Order 14168 was signed earlier this year, Argentina has removed femicide, which is the killing of a person on account of gender, from its penal code. This makes it legal for people to kill others simply because of gender. Additionally, the Hungarian parliament has given permission to track down people who have participated in pride events. As Americans, I think that we can all agree that at the most basic level, this violates privacy. These are prime examples of how policy can trickle down and negatively affect people's lives. In conclusion, sexism impacts women globally. It can look different in different countries, like how it's legal to kill based on gender in Argentina, but in the United States, women have the right to vote. But sadly, it's one step forward and 3 steps back. I simply implore you to pay attention to the world around you and to continue to educate yourself. Here I have listed all of my references. I will also post this list in the comments below.